90-Day Fiancé's Jasmin revealed her pregnancy to Gino on Happily Ever After, and it was absolutely more brutal than I expected. Warning: the following contains spoilers for the 90-Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After episode. Nobody puts baby in a corner. Stream it with an HBO Max subscription and read at your own risk. Knowing ahead of the season that Gino Palazzolo and Jasmin Pineda would end their marriage certainly lessened the blow of watching it unfold on 90-Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After. I was prepared for Gino's temporary fling with Natalie, and even the fight that went down between her and Jasmin. What I wasn't prepared for was her pregnancy reveal scene to Gino, which was way harder to watch than I expected. 90-Day Fiancé viewers first officially learned Jasmin was pregnant when she walked out on stage during the Last Resort Season 2 tell-all, looking pretty far along. She was confident and somewhat cocky about her new relationship with Matt Branasterianu, but the latest scene in HEA showed she was far less confident about it all when it happened. Jasmin made a brutal reveal about Gino. Jasmin invited Gino to Matt's house to reveal she was moving to Florida, but that wasn't all. After I speculated that Jasmin knew she was pregnant with Matt's child the previous week, she told Gino that she was expecting and wanted to let him know before he found out from tabloids, other cast members, or ahead of the tell-all for The Last Resort. Gino congratulated her, and after a little bit of talking, went out the door. It seemed like a normal response, but Jasmin knew better. She began to cry and watched him pull away out the window, explaining that was the worst reaction she could have gotten. She knew that when Gino is at his calmest in the face of news like that, it only meant he would have a more extreme reaction when he was in private. Gino breaking down in his confessional broke my heart. I'll admit that as a longtime 90-Day Fiancé fan, I haven't had a ton of sympathy for Gino throughout his journey with Jasmin. He knew she was a jealous person throughout their relationship. Yet, he continued to push the envelope by sending pics of her to his ex, and by having a bachelor party despite her specific instructions not to. All that said, once they were officially married, it seemed as though Gino had put his past behind them and was ready to start a family with Jasmin. They announced their intention to start trying for children shortly after their marriage, but months later, they were no longer sleeping together, and her situation with Matt began. To see Gino cry and finally admit for the first time that he felt his whole relationship was a lie was brutal. It got even worse when Jasmin admitted she knew the news broke Gino's heart, because he hoped with their marriage, he'd finally have a child of his own. I'll admit I got a little misty-eyed on the couch watching it all unfold, which I certainly didn't expect to happen with this storyline at all. We'll see how the storyline continues with Jasmin on her way to Florida, as 90-Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After continues on TLC on Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm hoping to hear Gino can find some solace in what looks to be hard times ahead, and that things aren't as vitriolic between him and his ex as they were at the Last Resort tell-all. What if none of this works? 90-Day Fiancé, The Other Way star Manon questions her move to France. The latest 90-Day Fiancé, The Other Way Season 7 episode showed Manon and Anthony leaving for France. The second episode of the TLC show aired on September 15, 2025, and fans witnessed Manon questioning her decision to move to France. As she left with her husband, Anthony, and their son, Manon felt overwhelmed. She talked about how she could not stop looking around and wanted to cry. It was because she couldn't stop thinking about what she had worked for over a decade, and now she was leaving it all. 90-Day Fiancé, The Other Way star Manon confessed to the cameras regarding why she decided to move to France, and also questioned her choice. I just cannot stop looking around and wanting to cry. Thinking about what I worked for 10 years. That's it. Now I'm completely leaving that away behind me. I'm giving up everything I dreamed of and everything I worked for, because I truly want to spend more time with my son, and I'm also doing it to save my marriage. But, what if none of this works? Confessed Manon. Recently aired 90-Day Fiancé, The Other Way Season 7 Episode 2 saw Manon and Anthony leaving for France. They said goodbye to Anthony's cousins, Maddie and Taylor, and their family. They were emotional about the couple leaving with their younger one. As they left for the airport, Manon confessed to the cameras about feeling devastated. She said that she could not believe that it was actually truly happening and that they were moving to France. I promised myself 10 years ago, when I first moved to LA. That's it. You're gonna stay here. You're gonna make it work. And now, I'm moving back to a country that I said I never would, ever, added Manon. She shared with the cameras about leaving everything that she had worked for the past 10 years, behind. She was giving up everything, including her dreams, because she wanted to spend more time with her son. Another reason was that she was doing it to save their marriage. However, she was concerned about none of it working out. 90 Day Fiance, the Other Way star mentioned that they spent $30,000 in the past 4 weeks. She was referring to paying medical bills, credit card bills, and more before they left. In his confession, Anthony noted that his and Manon's values of money and success were wildly different. She's only been out of work for a few weeks, and she's already stressing. But as long as I'm with my family, and we're not having to worry about where our next meal's coming from, or, keeping the electricity on, he said. He noted that both of them were on opposite spectrums on matters such as money. The two had a difference of opinion and got into an argument. He talked about wanting help in parenting. Manon mentioned how she had been doing everything to provide for them. To know more about their conversation, fans can stream 90 Day Fiancé. I get Sean's points on 90 Day Fiancé, but his actions still infuriate me. 90 Day Fiancé's Sean Finch has made a few valid points about his sexual preference in his confessionals, but I still think he's mostly at fault for the dynamic he's in with his fiancée. Sean has been dating Aaliyah Batista for a few years now. When they first met, 90 Day Fiancé franchise star Sean identified himself as mostly gay and, at the time, Aaliyah was known as Douglas. Their dynamic has shifted now that Doug is Aaliyah full-time, and her transition has led to a few concerns on Sean's part. For instance, Sean expressed his concern about not signing up for a relationship with a woman and their lack of a cell life. While I understand his point of view and think he does make a few valid arguments, I'm also infuriated by his actions that I think ultimately led him to this situation. 90 Day Fiancé's Sean's preferences are understandable. Everyone is entitled to their preferences. Since Sean's marriage ended, he often preferred to date men. The 90 Day Fiancé star seemed to be open to maintaining the bisexual label, but his preference was to date men. When he met Douglas, he fell in love with the male persona Aaliyah portrayed back then. However, now that Aaliyah has confirmed Douglas is dead, Sean wants to be supportive but also doesn't care for the change in their relationship. In his confessionals, Sean has shared the discomfort of being with a woman again. He's even claimed that this wasn't the situation he signed up for, and, in truth, I understand Sean's point of view. We can't help but like and be attracted to what's appealing to us. I also think everyone deserves to be true to themselves, explore their desires, and be free of situations that don't serve them. Overall, Sean seems open-minded and is attempting to be supportive, but I can't help but wonder if he's forcing himself to give up too much. Additionally, I wonder if having an open relationship is even more crucial now that his partner is Aaliyah full-time. 90 Day Fiancé's Sean isn't completely forthcoming. While all of Sean's points are valid, and I can empathize with his situation, I think he's completely missing the mark here. Sean's been struggling with some of these concerns back in their 90 Day Fiancé, Love in Paradise segment. As he mentioned in his current appearance, in their last segment, Aaliyah was present full-time and their SE lives changed drastically. Sean had doubts even before he proposed, but he decided to continue with his plans. In the previous season, Sean shut down Aaliyah's friend's line of questioning, which, albeit, was invasive, but her intentions were genuine. Sadly, his feelings never changed. As Aaliyah was on her way to America, he shared in his confessionals how he longed for the past. He had no idea how he'd be able to navigate this relationship well, and they had to get married soon. Nothing seems to have changed with their reappearance. Sean seems just as confused as ever, and Aaliyah is still distrusting of him since discovering they had an open relationship. In the end, Douglas transitioning into Aaliyah is a fairly slow process, and more work is to be done for her to feel complete. If Sean was uncomfortable with this transition, he should have spoken up sooner. While I appreciate how hard he's trying to be an accommodating and a safe space for Aaliyah, at the same time, I think Sean will end up hurting her more because his intentions are coming from the wrong place. Overall, I think Sean's preferences are valid, but he needs to be more honest and transparent with Aaliyah. 90 Day Fiancé's throuple is way messier than I thought. The latest season of 90 Day Fiancé is highlighting a throuple's journey, but I think this storyline is rapidly turning into a disaster. Since they first appeared in the 90 Day Fiancé franchise, I've been suspicious and concerned about their storyline. Matt and Imani Jalassi have been married for 10 years and have 2 children together. They met Eni Aguirre on a vacation in Mexico, and for the last year, the 3 of them have been exploring their intimate connections as a throuple. So far, the 3 of them have been connected well. Eni claims she feels complete when she's with both of them. Both Matt and Imani feel similarly and are in love with Eni. In fact, since polyamory isn't legal in the United States, Matt and Imani are ready to divorce so one of them could marry Eni. However, I'm realizing my initial impressions of this couple are correct, and they have a lot more to explore before they can make their plans work successfully. The 90 Day Fiancé throuple has no boundaries.